Now, coming up on Sky News tonight at 8 o'clock, a fresh investigation into the murder of Marea Yann. She's a grandmother who was murdered in her Victorian home while alone late at night in September 2003. 20 years on, reporters Denham Hitchcock and Liam Mendes have pieced together the clues. They've got brand new evidence and witness testimony never seen before by the original jury. They felt the need to get a right of reply from Marea's son-in-law, James Unamadu, who was acquitted of her murder. Here's how that went down.
James Unamadu, Denham Hitchcock. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I know you were acquitted at that trial and you're entitled to a presumption of innocence, but I want to ask you about...
Hey, don't touch me.
Hey, don't... Excuse me, sir. Don't touch him, please. Don't touch him.
Leave my door.
Just want to talk to you, sir, just for a moment. James, there's a few things I want to run past you. I'd really like to give you the right of reply.
Who Murdered Marea will air tonight at 8 o'clock right here on Sky News. I've seen the documentary. It is sensational and it definitely delivers for her family as well. I spoke to Liam Mendes about the documentary earlier. The reporter who worked on the documentary, Liam Mendes, joins us now. Liam, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, take us back to the night that Marea Yann was killed. What actually happened?
Well, Marea Yann was a 69-year-old widow. She lived by herself in her Healesville home. It's a country town in Victoria. And she was bludgeoned to death 22 times by an unknown attacker in her own living room.
And what made police at the time think that the perpetrator was someone that she knew?
Well, Marea was a person who was absolutely adored by the community. She worked in the local op shop. She had a beautiful family, children, grandchildren. And when she was attacked and murdered, there was no sign of a forced entry. There was she had no signs of a defensive actions. This is something that police strongly believed was an attack by someone that she knew.
She'd been sitting there watching television. Exactly. The television volume was on low.
Nothing was stolen from the house except maybe a couple of credit cards, and those credit cards were never used. So they were struggling to find a motive for this.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that she had her regular routine on a Monday night, which was to relax and watch television, and those close to her knew that that was what she liked to do on a Monday.
That's right. You know, she was sitting in the lounge room chair of her living room, just relaxed, and that's how the gardener found her the morning afterwards, just sitting in the chair. The volume of the TV was still low. There was no sign of a forced entry, no sign of any defensive injuries to herself, to her body either.
Now, the documentary you've done with Denham Hitchcock is absolutely incredible, like I said. Your documentary reveals that in the final weeks of Marea's life, she was very fearful, she was terrified, and there's an indication that she might have even made preparations for her death in case that should happen. You know, she cleaned her house.
That's right. During the documentary, we spoke to a lot of Marea's family and friends, and that was one thing that was consistent. She feared for her life in the weeks leading up to her death. She was sort of the glue that kept the relationship between her daughter and her daughter's husband at the time. His name's James Unamadu, and he was actually charged by police with Marea's murder and then later acquitted by a jury. She was what kept them together. And the family have told us that there were many, many threats made for her life, including the use of a witch doctor and a voodoo doll.
So in the lead up to her death, you found out that she was very frightened?
Without a doubt, she was absolutely petrified.
When people watch this documentary later tonight, they might be left wondering why a jury didn't choose to convict the man that was police's only suspect. What evidence was withheld from the jury?
Well, that's the thing. There is a lot of evidence that was withheld from the jury. There's some evidence that we've actually uncovered as part of this documentary, which police will also be reviewing. But there are a lot of witnesses that weren't essentially allowed to tell their side of the story. They weren't allowed to tell things that they'd heard, things that Marea had told them. Marea is the most, by all accounts, the most beautiful person that would dedicate a lot of time to the community. She had a lot of friends. She confided in these people. And these people weren't allowed to tell the court, tell the jury.
Why is that?
I guess in the judicial system, there are times where a decision is made that certain things can be heard by a jury and certain things can't be. We just hope that, what we've uncovered in this documentary, that some of these might be able to help.
Without giving too much away, you and Denham were able to confront the man that police previously suspected of killing Marea Yann. He was acquitted. How tense was that moment when you confronted him on the street?
Well, it's been 20 years now since Marea was murdered, and we went and confronted James Unamadu, who was acquitted of the murder charge. He faced a jury, and it was a very tense moment, but I really think that your viewers need to watch the documentary to really understand exactly what happened at that point, because it is an extraordinary moment that occurred there.
All right, Liam Mendes, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.